Max Bergman from the Center for American Progress had a tweet storm last night that really caught my eye. It started like this, quote, "Democrats are unbelievably losing the political fight over the Russia scandal. This is of their own doing. They've ceded the field and aren't fighting the fight. They want this to be bipartisan, but the GOP has decided to go on offense. Witch hunt, deep state, liberal FBI." And of course, I think he's right. Despite all the coverage here and elsewhere of the Russia investigation, Americans are amazingly uninformed about the most basic facts. Robert Mueller has already obtained 19 criminal indictments, 5 guilty pleas, as we mentioned before. He's uncovered a remarkable trail of criminality, and his investigation is very much ongoing. And despite that fact, a new poll found that just 41% of registered voters know that Mueller has uncovered crimes. The rest, 59%, wrongly believe that Mueller has found nothing. Joining me now to break down what the Democrats are doing wrong, MSNBC political analyst Jason Johnson, political editor at The Root, and the man behind the tweet storm I just mentioned, Max Bergman, senior fellow at the Center for American Progress. Give me your argument, Max.
So my basic argument is I think Democrats have been in a tough spot, right? Democrats want to get to the bottom of this. They want to have a thorough investigation, and they want the investigation to play out before they come to judgment. That is a responsible way of proceeding. The problem is the White House, President Trump, and his accomplices in Congress are going on offense. They're attacking the investigation. They're saying it's a witch hunt. They're attacking the credibility. And what we're seeing is that it's having an impact, that they're basically running a disinformation campaign that is throwing sand in the eyes of the American public, that's confusing the American public. And so what's happened is that Democrats, by defending the investigation and really focusing on just defending Mueller, the public has lost sight of what this investigation is about. They've become confused. And so I think it's important for Democrats to learn that lesson and to go back and explain to the public this investigation is producing results. It is producing indictments. And then also to remind the public about what this is all about and to go back and respond to remind them the Trump campaign had all these meetings with the Russians. They lied about all of them. And to really try to tell a clearer story to the American public and remind them of basic facts. And I think that's getting lost in the whole deluge of news that is constantly coming out and in the White House and Republican attacks.
To your point about sort of comparisons, 538 put together this sort of comparison of the Russia investigation with other investigations. It's remarkable how much it is produced in a relatively short period of time when you compare it to other things like Iran-Contra and other scandals. Jason, there's been a line that's come from, it's been interesting. It's both sort of, I think, Democratic political consultants and people kind of across the political spectrum that says, look, voters don't care about this. They care about health care. Talk about that.
Yeah, that's true. And here's the thing, Chris. I think it's important. I have another number that goes along with this recent poll. 58% of the American public, and I looked at every single sort of poll about the Russia investigation going back to December, the number of Americans who believe that the Mueller investigation should continue has gone up. It has continued to go up. 58% of Americans, as of just last month, were saying, hey, look, we want this investigation to continue. So it's not so much an issue of they have to know all the specific details. As long as the American people believe in the integrity of the investigation itself, as long as they believe in Robert Mueller is doing, then the Democrats are doing a good job. They don't need to make this the primary focus in 2018.
I also think, Max, Mitch McConnell taught this lesson under Barack Obama, which was that if you deny your party's votes to the agenda, it polarizes everything. And I think that in the first year of the Trump administration, when the two big items were health care and the tax cuts, neither of which got Democratic votes, there was a very clear line between the parties. Since then, we've seen Democrats vote for a bank deregulation bill, give them 17 votes in the Senate, 33 in the House. We've seen Democrats to vote for the CIA director appointed by Donald Trump, the Secretary of State appointed by Donald Trump. Do you think that those votes eat away at a message that says this guy is an existential threat to democracy?
So I think those votes really reflect the differences in the parties, right? I think Democrats voted on each of those and allowed their caucus to vote the way they thought best. But that's not what we're seeing from the Republican side when it's related to the Russia investigation.
No. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Jeff Flake will come out and say, will speak out sometimes about the Russia investigation, even because he's not running for re-election. But what we're not seeing are Republicans on the Senate Intelligence Committee speaking out. So we're not seeing any of that from the Republicans. And I think what this means is that Democrats are really in a tough position because they don't want to make this partisan. But Republicans decide whether it's bipartisan
That's
or
right.
not, and they're deciding not to make it bipartisan. And so Democrats need to punish Republicans and also the White House when it is violating norm after norm, attacking the rule of law, when it is all the corruption that's being revealed. And Republicans that tie themselves to the White House to defend the White House need to pay a price politically, or else this will just continue.
What do you think of that, Jason?
Well, I agree, but the problem is, how do you make them pay the price, right? Nancy Pelosi comes out and she's like, hey, this is a problem. Democrats come out and say this is a problem. Making the Republicans pay the price for essentially being obstinate and not caring about America hasn't done anything for the last 7 or 8 years. What the Democrats need to actually focus on is winning some races in the fall. And that means you can pat your head and rub your tummy, you can chew gum and play basketball at the same time.
Right.
But I think, again, this idea that, hey, they're not beating the drums enough on Russia, it runs counter to what we've seen in these special elections where people are winning and flipping Republican seats, and they don't have to talk about Russia.
It is remarkable to me that the fact the president was surrounded by criminals in his campaign, that's just a fact. The president was surrounded by criminals. That's a truth statement.
Right.
Is not a thing Democrats say every time they're in front of the camera. That is just a true thing about the president of the United States. He was surrounded by criminals. Some of the highest aides in his campaign are criminals, and we already know that. You almost never hear that word leave the lips of Democratic politicians. Jason Johnson, Max Bergman, thank you for both being with me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Still to come, history in the making, the first female African-American gubernatorial nominee.